Right, I'm here with Rudi Du Plooy. Did I get it right?
That's it, yep.
Candidate for Hamilton West in the elections 2019 in Hamilton. But you're also part of the... Now, you'll have to tell me this, because I can't remember what they call themselves exactly.
Okay, that's now the Hamilton Residents and Ratepayers Association.
Yeah. And there's a team of you on the east and west. I think there's 4 on each side.
Yeah, four on the east and 3 on the west.
3 on the west,
yeah.
Okay. That are standing for not so much reducing rates as such, but more responsible use of rates and keeping the rates down where you can, instead of this constantly hiking rates all the time and in irresponsible use of the rates.
I think that's a fair assessment. The trouble with governments is that it's so easy just to raise the taxes or raise the rates or whatever. In your normal household, you can't just go to your boss and say, "I want to buy a new car, so you must give me a raise." What causes governments to think that is a moral solution, that they can just do that? So I think we have a problem in that wealthy people generally, if I put the rates up by $50 a week, so it's not a major thing. No. It kind of sort of just goes over their head, and it's just another thing they're going to pay. But when you talk about poor people, single parents, and you talk about the elderly...
Yeah, because you're talking about people who are on either low income or fixed low income.
Yep.
An elderly person, their pension doesn't go up year after year after year.
Exactly.
By 4.5% or 4.8% or whatever,
and
or 9%.
There's the dilemma.
Yeah.
So we're actually making people poorer.
Yeah.
Which is a terrible thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean, how do we even live with ourselves? How do you go to bed at night and think, well, we've just done this to our people? How do you do that?
Yeah.
So I think what we're putting on the table is that we understand full well you've got income and you've got expenditure, but you have to control the expenditure to fit your income.
Yeah.
And that essentially, I think, is what we're about.
And it's more so with a council or any government, because, yes, they need to supply certain social things, need to spend money on certain social aspects.
That's fair. Yeah.
And infrastructure, but they also need to be more responsible with that money than anyone else might do, because it's not their money they're spending. If you go out and do a job and you make $200,000 in the year and you've got that sitting in the bank, you can spend it how you like.
Right.
If you're single. Right?
Correct.
As soon as you've got a family, you're responsible for other people.
It's a different thing.
Right? But with the council, the money is coming from the public.
Yep.
And we want them, basically, to spend it on the stuff that we need to have a better city and, have better infrastructure, have pipes in the ground that fit the purpose, because Hamilton is growing.
Yeah.
The pipes we've got in the ground and properties were designed for single residency properties with just one house on one property.
Now you are stirring.
So the pipes are a given size. They're good and they're standing up to it now.
Yep.
But if we don't look after the infrastructure, right, and make good decisions about how we spend the rates to keep the infrastructure going, we're going to have a bunch of people that are paying high rates and having sewage leaks and things like this all the time. Or flooding in the case of stormwater, flooding.
Exactly.
The basic 3 waters. Or not getting clean enough water.
Yep.
And being told from now on you have to boil all your water that comes through the tap.
Yeah.
And things like this. And that's not good, is it?
For the last year, I've spent time in council. I've been sitting there listening to the meetings that go on so that I can be up to speed. The question is asked, will the current infrastructure be able to cope? And the answer that staff give is yes. I don't believe that. I just cannot believe that.
No, I logically, when I look at it logically, and I got no training in this area, right? But I've known a few plumbers, and common sense comes into play.
Yep.
That, yes, it might be okay for the next 5, maybe even 10 years, but with infill housing, somewhere between 10 to 20 years, that system is going to be under a lot of strain. So either they have to change the pipes or come up with other alternatives. One I know right at the Turnaway, they've got one alternative for dealing with stormwater, and that's during a storm, they store the water and release it over a period of time, so it's not released right at the time of the storm. And that makes common sense, because that just reduces the strain on the system, stops flooding, because those stormwater drains can only handle a given amount of water. I think I heard that they're looking, or have been upgrading the water treatment for drinking water over time.
They're doing an expansion there now as well.
Yeah. Because otherwise it cannot keep up with the drinking water we're going to need as the population grows.
This current expansion that's coming now will be the last and final one. This is the last piece of ground that they have that they can actually build.
Oh, okay.
And after that, that's it. We have to make another plan.
See, that's where they have to honestly, and whatever council comes in, has to really look at two things. The spending of the money part, plus how they're going to solve it, because now we're not just got a problem of do we have enough money to do something, it's what are we going to do. We are going to have infill housing, full stop, that's going to happen.
Oh, absolutely.
Because we can only spread out so much. And I know a lot of councils have talked about the balance between these two and getting that right. And I think that's where groups like yours, for instance, have a part to play in ensuring that that balance is well thought out and well discussed.
Yeah.
To ensure that it is true balance. It's a bit of a balancing act, really.
It is. So I don't know whether that's got something to do with clowns getting into politics or politicians getting into the circus, but whichever way it works. But there is a juggling act that has to happen. Ultimately, whatever decision we take and make in council has to benefit the people of Hamilton.
Yeah.
There's one thing that people would like to make a lot of money out of this, and there's the other thing is how will it benefit the people of Hamilton.
Yeah.
We spoke about the infilling and the infrastructure might last another 5 or 10 years or whatever. I think that in its current form, it will not be able to cope anyway. But let's give you the 5 years that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And say in the 5 years' time, when this needs to be replaced, who will pay for that?
Yeah.
That's the next question.
The other important thing is we don't want to wait 5 years, do we? So if we assume that it needs to be increased in 5 years,
yes,
we need to start looking at that now. We can't wait for whatever council's in 5 years, because that's what we've got an election now. 3 years, it's another election. So that would be not this coming council, but the next one that would be having responsibility for that. We can't go, we'll push it off to them. We need to, when I say we, I mean the council.
Correct.
Need to find a solution and start enacting that solution inside this term.
Yeah.
And have that solution designed to, even if it goes in stages, be a solution that will stretch well into the future.
Yeah.
They should learn from this country's thing with housing at the moment, is the fact that we know population expanding over the whole of New Zealand.
Correct.
We know there is a greater need for housing. We know that when there isn't enough housing, when there's less housing, the price of houses goes up.
Yeah.
Right? So we needed to have started keeping building houses, and I'm talking like state houses and things like this, over the last 10 years.
Correct.
To keep pace in this country, and I'm not just blaming this council or anything like that, but in this country as a whole, it looks like we've slipped when it comes to building houses, social housing for low-income families. We have slipped behind the rate of the population growth.
Correct.
So the population has increased greater than the amount of houses. And now the houses the amount of housing is getting so far behind.
Yep.
It's it's going to be a hard job to catch up. And anyone who's done sport knows if you're right at the back of the bunch of runners or race car drivers or whatever, your chances of getting to the front and winning are getting slimmer and slimmer and slimmer by
every lap.
Race goes, every lap.
Every lap you are further behind.
Yeah, and we can look at every year, in this case, in the case of politics, every year is a lap.
Yep.
So every year that goes by that nothing's done, gets further and further behind.
Yeah.
It's the same with maintenance of anything to do with council. The more you put off, and I know the council before the current one put a lot of things off. Right?
Correct.
It's become a big part
to make
of
the books
campaign.
look better. Yeah.
Yeah. The trouble with that is you're putting off something that needs doing, so that the repairs get worse and worse and worse.
Correct.
So therefore, the cost at the end goes up.
Correct.
And this comes back to where's the money going to come from for the infrastructure?
Yeah.
Well, we need to formulate an idea as to how that's going to happen. Maybe a partnership with industry or government or something like that. We need to come up with that idea and start enacting it in this lap round the race course.
Right.
As soon as possible, rather than wait till the last minute and do it. Because the two problems are, what are we going to do and how are we going to pay for it? And the longer you leave either of those, the harder it becomes. Because the cost goes up. So if you can start something now and start making some sort of progress, that keeps the cost at the other end down.
Yeah, correct.
And that's where, like you're saying, responsible spending of ratepayers' money comes into it, that you know that's a cost that's got to happen at some point.
Yeah.
So how does that shape how you spend the ratepayers' money now? Even allowing for the fact that as we get more and more people, get more and more rates. But yeah, we got this. We know this expense is going to happen, say in 5 years or somewhere over during the next 5 years. So where are we going to get the money? And we need to start working on that now.
Exactly right. One would have hoped that they would have put development costs in the new infill projection and charged the developer.
Yeah, and I know that's another thing that's come up in discussion is making developers a lot more responsible for the costs at the time of development, especially for putting in this sewerage network and having a standard that, because the standard for the pipes and things has got to be totally different than what it was in the past.
Correct.
And they need to be made responsible for that as developers.
Absolutely.
So we need to make the process of developing easier to keep up with the housing, but we need to make sure that it still stays up to a certain standard.
Yeah.
And that the developer is responsible for a lot more of what they should be responsible for.
And one is hopeful that the engineering department, in their planning, will not only focus on for the now, but will focus on, putting the infrastructure in that will cope for another 10 or 15 or 20 or 30 years.
Because that brings up another issue that often happens with politics. We have a cycle of elections every 3 years.
Correct.
But politicians still tend to think in 3-year leaps often.
Yep.
I'm not saying all do, but overall, and this is local government, central government, tend to think very often in the short term 3 year while they're in term. What can I get done in the 3 year term, or what can I stave off? Because probably not going to get elected next term, so what can I put off to the next government?
Yep.
And local government's no different than central government from that point of view. We just got different numbers.
That's the failing with the 3 year system. Because in fact, you cannot be really effective and do the projects that you need to do in 3 years.
No.
You can't do that. Even if we wanted to restructure this road or the riverfront or whatever, it'll take 5 years.
Yeah.
So
let's just look at Wairiri Drive, for
exactly.
instance.
So we can do. So whatever we don't finish, we leave to the next council to worry about.
Yeah, it needs to
find
be
the funding.
It needs to be set in stone as to what's going to happen.
Exactly.
So there's no council now makes a decision on a project, say a 9-year project.
Yep.
And that decision stays constant.
Yep.
With maybe slight variations as it needs, as costs and things change. But effectively, that project keeps going for the full 9 years.
You've got to future-proof the stuff. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's what was happening with the Hamilton-Auckland corridor. That thing has been future-proofed. So that's just a reality. It's going to happen. Whether people like it or not, it's going to happen.
As far as I can see, it's been well thought out.
Yes.
The various aspects of it have been well thought out. So with something like that, it will happen.
Yes.
Yes, it may not have huge amounts of people using it
Correct.
to start with.
Correct.
Because the trouble with public transport is people need to know that they can rely on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think over time its use will build up. Yes, it's going to be underused for a good year or two.
Yeah.
But once we get used to using it,
Yeah.
I know I will use it to some degree.
Yes.
I will still use the bus to Auckland because I often do a lot of my photography, street photography, in the centre of Auckland, so the bus goes right to Sky Tower.
Yeah.
But in the case of other parts of Auckland that I'd normally have to catch a bus out to, and I do not understand Auckland's public transport system because I'm not there enough, at least I know I can catch a train to, say, Papakura, or someone said Newmarket's the place to go because that's where, from Newmarket, you can pretty much catch a bus or a train to anywhere else.
Okay.
I've got to investigate that, but yeah. But anyway, the one question I have to ask is, which I've asked everyone, is effectively, why should people vote for you? What core reason do you think people, or core reasons, plural?
Okay. I think there's two things. Number one, I will make a difference. Number two, it's my commitment to serve the people of Hamilton. I fortunately don't have other agendas. It's something I do. It's something I did in South Africa. I was in council for 8 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And love to do it. If I can change the quality of life for any person in a city, that's what I do. That's what I want to do. And I know I'm very effective. I can change things. I can work in a team. I can make a team. I can do the tough questions. I can stand my ground if I have to. I can be if I put my foot down, I heard you talk about Dave. You oftentimes you need to say no.
Yeah.
And then there are times that you have to have a resounding yes, and that might also not be popular.
But then you come from a nationality that's much like the Scots. When we stick our foot down, we refuse to move on some things. But you're tempered with enough understanding to go, sometimes I have to sort of move a little bit, but there's some issues that you just have to hold your ground on, and that's it.
Yeah, absolutely. And anything that adversely affects people, I have a real problem, and I struggle with getting to the point. And I always say that. So, why would we want to do this? What page are we on? Is it the same book? I mean, can we just? I think we've lost so much. Confidence levels in council here is at 26%. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Look at trust council. So I'm signing up to join an organisation that people don't trust. It must be crazy.
Do you think council could do a lot more to bring people in to interact with council, not like both individual councils and council as a whole, a lot better than they have? Because voting, last time was 32%, I can't remember, 33% of bugger all anyway. Yeah.
And to think that a fraction of those voted for the current mayor and a fraction voted, so actually the council and the councillors and everybody there is there because of a
very small
that liked them enough. Their smile or their beard or the.
If 100% of the population vote, then even if you disagree with the outcome, it is a representation of what the majority of people want.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Yes, we do need to, in my opinion, change the voting system we use for council, but we also need to help people to understand more about how the voting systems work, because first past the post is not the perfect way to get a good representation of council. STV is probably the closest, best option that I can think of. and it's not that complicated to vote on that system, really. It's, it's not that hard.
Yeah.
We're coming up, is it next year or the year after, one of the years in this term, council get to vote on the election system we're going to use, right? Voting system we're going to use. And maybe they'll change to something like that. But even with first past the post, if everyone votes, their vote does hold water, does hold weight.
Yep.
And a lot of people forget this. It's quite shocking to think we're such a democratic society that started off where only white landowners could vote.
Yep.
Went right the way through having everyone the vote, women the vote. Now everyone over the age of 18 can vote if they register, and they're either a New Zealand-born or nationalised citizen, right? Effectively a citizen of New Zealand, and yet we've got such low voter turnout. Then you look at other countries that people don't have the right to vote. I was talking to a guy from Saudi the other day, just because he sat at the table next to me having a coffee, and he said it's quite strange for him, coming from a country, he's now a citizen of New Zealand, he's married to someone here, coming to New Zealand and having the right to vote. He says all his life, it's not something he's had to think about. Now he gets to, he said, depends how you look at it, whether you get to or have to sit and evaluate people and decide who you're going to vote for. And we were talking about this issue of people not voting, and he said he doesn't understand why people in this country don't vote, because he said he comes from a country where you didn't vote, right? Had no say in the makeup of your government or your leadership, and comes to New Zealand, now has the right to vote, and he said seeing all these people who just can't be bothered, he says you're getting to say who is in charge of you, and you're not getting out and doing it.
But they will moan.
Oh yeah, they'll moan.
The council's doing this and the bus is that, and even coming from South Africa, and I'm a very political animal. So one of the first things I did when I got to Christchurch is I sort of knocked on some of the political people that were in Parliament on their doors and introduced myself and said, because that's just how I am. And because I'm a political animal, I criticise and praise things that government does or doesn't do. And it's strange. Even South Africans say, well, if you don't like it, you can go back to South Africa. No, I'm a Kiwi. And because I'm a Kiwi, I have the right to say...
You're doing this wrong.
Or
you're doing this right, or whatever it is.
I have a right to
and
do
expect things to be done better.
Exactly.
And voice your opinion on how you think things should be done for the people.
Exactly.
It's not just doing it from what you want them to do for you.
Correct.
It's what you can see they need to do for the people as a whole to make the country better and make it flourish. Because we've seen, if you watch the news, you see many countries effectively go down the toilet at different stages for different reasons, civil wars, all sorts of things, poverty, starvation, droughts, all these sorts of things. And we as a group of people are really the ones that are responsible for deciding the direction of New Zealand or our local council by our choice of a well-chosen choice of who sits on council for us, looking at what they stand for, what they're going to do, keeping in mind that they've got to make decisions in council if they get in, based on new information that we don't now know. So you can't actually honestly promise something other than you'll do your best to accomplish what needs to be done. Like I've heard people say, I can't promise to keep rates down, to have a certain rate level, but we can promise to do our best to make sure that the rates are being spent properly where they need to be, and that they are kept down if possible. But until you get into council and these discussions happen and new information comes through that only councils know, you can't categorically promise, we won't let the rates go past 4.8% 2% or whatever it happens to be.
Somebody made that statement in a candidature.
Yeah.
And I kind of went, "Ooh, you can't do that.
No.
You're going to get into trouble."
Yeah.
Because once you make that commitment, you need to fulfill it.
Yeah. No one can make a promise that the rate. You can say, someone could say, I promise that rates will not go up above 5%. But what happens if something occurs that, that's the only alternative?
Exactly.
And the only other alternative is shutting down the libraries or Waterworld or whatever like that.
Yeah, whatever it is,
Then yes, you can keep the promise, but I'll shut down Waterworld to keep my promise.
Yeah.
But that
wouldn't be smart at all. No.
And that's the balance that occurs.
Correct.
And I think a lot of people, hopefully some of my viewers are a little bit more clever than that, but a lot of people don't understand that balance.
Yeah.
And
it's a very fine line, and in all of that, the stuff. And I've heard Angela talk about this, the procurement systems. I think that needs to be put under a big magnifying glass.
Yeah.
Because there often things go wrong. She talks about when they hear the word council, they will rip you off. And I think some people do that.
It's easy just to go, we'll ring that person and it's a big roading contract or a big contract of some sort. Say putting in putting in all the pipes down the main street, right? So you go to a contractor that you used in the past, charge us whatever you want, that's it.
And the same consultant.
Yeah. And it really needs to be looked at again from scratch and go, we need you to give us a costing on this.
Yep.
We need the suppliers to be honest about the costing, not underbid to get a job. And then I think council needs to be pretty tough on those that consistently underbid to get a job and then have budget overruns and crap like that.
Correct.
We need to deal with those because it's far better to know the true cost and be able to work with that than just going, you've got the lowest bid, we'll go with that, and then find that you're having to service a cost overrun at some point.
I think often, too, the councillors get bad information, whether that's presented to them in good faith or whatever, or dubious ways.
Yeah.
The proposed new jetty here on the river is a case in question, because they wanted to put the jetty in, and they said, we estimate the cost would be this. And when they actually got the engineers down there and everything else, it is a lot more money.
Yeah, because they haven't taken into account the riverbank to start with, and that's a dodgy sand pile at the best of times.
Exactly. and now the thing is, the council's actually already committed to this as part of the plan, and everything's there. Now the council's told them we want more money.
Yeah.
So where is a lot more money? Okay, well, let's take the gun out and get it from you.
And hold up to the ratepayer.
Exactly, and I think in cases like that, that's so unfair. The better way would have been to get that proper analysis done.
Yeah.
And said, this thing will cost us so much.
See, that's the other thing people need to take into account with voting for councillors, is you need to be confident that the person you vote for has the ability to understand the information they're given. Right. And this, again, comes down to a reasonably good spread of councillors.
Yes.
So some councillors will understand the finance better than others. Some will understand the structural engineering and the plumbing. We've got some councillors that will understand the law and order and security and safety issues better than others.
Yep.
And if you've got that balance, and you've got people who do understand the area that they are good at, right, then we can have good decisions made, so long as they're given the good information, and that the council staff can feel confident that if they give the councillor a bunch of information, they can understand that, or at least ask the right questions to get further information so that they can understand. That's what we need with council now. And we currently do have councillors on our sitting council that are well informed and make good decisions based on that information.
Yes.
What we don't want is councillors will make decisions based on preconceived ideas or ideologies or weird pseudoscience or other oddity things like that.
Yeah.
You know, we don't want that, do we?
No, absolutely not.
But what? Just before we end this,
Okay.
what one or two things do you see would be or should be at the top of your agenda if you became elected as councillor that you would work? I'm not saying you would accomplish, but you would work towards as soon as you possibly could to get action on.
One of the key things, I think the first thing, auto business, is to change the standing orders.
Okay.
There is, they were panel beaten, and I use that word.
Yeah.
They were panel beaten and changed.
Oh, okay.
And the whole governance, and that's what I do, the whole governance thing is incorrect, because the staff actually determine what is allowed in a meeting,
Okay.
and not the chairman.
Okay.
To the extent that there was a finance committee meeting, and the chair of that finance committee meeting was unable to present his chairman's report because staff did not include it in the pack, refused to put it in the pack,
Okay.
and based what they did on the new standing orders. And I'm saying no.
Okay, we're in agreement there because I have a bit of an issue with that. The
Exactly.
the councillors are supposed to be above the actual
Exactly.
council workers.
Exactly.
They give the overriding direction,
Exactly.
and they should be able to bring whatever they want up in a meeting to
Exactly.
discuss.
Yeah.
And then the results of that discussion are passed down to the council staff, the CEO, etc., etc.
Yeah.
Right.
That's how it should be.
That's how the chain of command.
Exactly.
It's like a board of directors in a company. You've got a board of directors.
Yep.
You've then got the manager for the company,
Yeah.
and then you've got the workers for the company. And in business, that has a very specific flow. You don't get the manager telling the board of directors
Totally,
what to do.
totally right.
Yeah.
So
that would be
has
one of
to
your-
yeah, absolutely. That has to
Yes,
change.
and I can see that. Yeah.
And from there, and you know, I will say that I believe the staff are very good at what they do. They've got an immense job and they do it well, and there's people that are committed, and I accept all that. But the thing that we will definitely want to do is change the standing orders,
Yeah.
because you cannot have lopsided governance. It doesn't exist in my book. It
No.
cannot happen. I would think that it's unlawful.
Yeah, I would have thought so too, but my knowledge in that area is not
Yeah.
good enough. But I would have thought so.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks very much for your time.
Good, man.
And good
you so
luck in
much
the
for this
election.
time. Yeah.
And